welcome. You're watching Business Today Television. I'm Sakshi Batra and this is Market Today, a show where we'll help you understand the trading setup and how the action goes for the day and of course for this new week as well. But first up, we'll look at a recap of what happened last week, which was a truncated week. All of last week, the Nifty actually remained stuck in about a 600-point range as tensions continued to persist on the India-Pakistan border. And despite many tailwinds that came in, like falling crude oil price or a stronger rupee, the benchmark index has actually failed to break beyond this narrow range. In fact, if you look at the cumulative gain over the last 3 sessions on the Nifty has been just a minor 18 point. And this is because the bulls are unwilling to take the markets higher, but are also ensuring that it does not fall either. So every dip is being bought into, but every, probably the highs that we are seeing in the markets beyond 24,500 is getting sold into as well. Now, as far as the global cues are concerned, remember US markets closed higher on Friday. We have seen that the S&P 500 rose by 1.5%, Dow Jones up by 1.4%, Nasdaq also gained by about 1.5%. In fact, Wall Street logged its biggest winning streak in 20 years after earnings from most of the big tech companies were done, and also the non-farm payrolls were above expectations, prompting further pressure on the US Fed to cut rates as well. Remember, all eyes will be on the FOMC and its policy outcome in this week as well. Now, what we'll also look at, of course, Asian market cues will be missing. Japan, South Korea, China, they remain closed today, so we don't have many cues from there. The foreign investors, remember, have been buyers of the Indian equity markets for 12 straight sessions. For 7 straight sessions, both FIIs and DIIs have been buying into the Indian markets. Foreign investors, they bought about 2,769 odd crore rupees as of May 2nd. What we also do remember is that DIIs have bought stocks worth about 3,290 odd crore rupees as of Friday as well. Now remember, 2 of the important constituents, SBI and Kotak Mahindra Bank, will be reacting to their numbers. These numbers were reported on Saturday, and today the markets will be reacting to that. There'll be also individual names like NetWeb Technologies, CDSL, Utkarsh Small Finance Bank, Indian Bank, Avenue Supermarts will also be reacting to the numbers and the news flows there. Today, key numbers that will come out. Very important numbers from Mahindra & Mahindra, from the earnings. DCM Shriram, CAMS, CCL Products, Coforge, Pratap Snacks and OneSource Specialty Pharma will be also coming out with the numbers. We'll definitely look at that. Remember, apart from this, we have a whole host of other stocks that we can definitely focus on today. But let's welcome our guest on board first to understand how they're looking at the markets right now and the new setup. Avinash Gorakshakar, the head of research at Profit Mart Securities, is now joining in on the program with us. Warm welcome to you, sir, and thank you so much for joining in. We start off another week. One hand, we have positive cues coming in from the US markets. We also have positive cues coming in from the macros, like crude oil prices falling below $60 a barrel. That works well for us. Earnings, some of them are actually coming in line or better than expectations again. But of course, there is this large overhang of the geopolitical tensions that continue that are keeping the sentiments in check. How do you advise investors to really look at and navigate through these moves now in the new week?
Yeah, good morning, Sakshi. My sense is that, as you rightly mentioned, I think macro variables are getting better. I think we have heard US also now talking about some trade negotiation with China, which eventually means that some solution will be, taken. And I think crude prices have come below $60. It's now around $59, for the Brent. So I think clearly, the macros are definitely going to improve. And I think you could see a good gap up opening today. I think already, on Friday, the Dow was up by almost 500 odd points. So I think the markets have cheered the fact that Donald Trump is now looking forward for a solution with China. More importantly, I think some of the corporate numbers which came out have also been quite encouraging. So I think this also being a busy result season day, I think you're going to see a lot of stock specific activity. So I think net, I think investors should definitely look at specific companies and start their buying. I would not be surprised that whatever panic was there in the market, post April 2nd, is now out of the market. And I think the markets have clearly now started looking up. So I think it's going to be a pick and choose market, but I think you need to be selective.
Absolutely. So that will be important to really look at as well. But over the weekend, we also got some important sentimental cues from Berkshire Hathaway's meet as well, the annual meet that happens. This was the 60th edition, and very, very important cues coming in from there. Warren Buffett, who's 94 years old, has finally announced that he will be stepping down as the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. The veteran investor known as the Oracle of Omaha has talked about in his annual meeting that he will be handing over the reins of Berkshire Hathaway now to Vice Chairman Greg Abel, who will be taking over as CEO by the end of the year as well. He did receive, a standing ovation by the end of the meeting. Hundreds of people attended the meeting as always, but this time it was going to be extremely special after holding the position of the CEO for 6 decades. Finally, he's hanging up his boots at this point in time. 94 years old, but you could actually see a lot of inspiration flowing in from him even in this meeting. Mr. Gorakh, what stood out for you in the Berkshire Hathaway meeting this time?
No, I think clearly, Swati, I think it was one of those events which possibly was cheered by all the investors. And this is a yearly event. So probably this is the last event where Warren Buffett will be the CEO. I think, as you rightly mentioned, the new CEO will soon be taking over. But I think that clearly underlines the fact that investors, always value the long-term investment kind of approach. And I think that definitely goes a long way in building, wealth. Because I think clearly at the end of the day, Warren Buffett is known to be the god of value creation. And I think people respect him for that.
Absolutely. So that's something that we will continue to look at, the cues that were coming in. Remember, he also did talk about the trade tariffs, and he also said that trade should not be used as a weapon. He also said that from nothing, it's really created, US has become, one of the greatest countries in the world, and, such measures should be avoided at all costs. Mr. Gorakh, how would you really look at? You did say that finally Donald Trump is somehow blinking. We are seeing some softer stance on trade tariffs, something that kept the markets on tenterhooks. How would you really look at, statements coming in from Warren Buffett on trade? And, I'm sure similar statements are actually falling on Donald Trump's ears as well when it talks about, trade-led tariff war.
No, I think my sense is, I think Warren Buffett had a very clear assessment that tariffs should not be used as a weapon. But if you see the commentary of Donald Trump in the last few weeks, I think he's toned down. I think he's really now talking about some solution with India as well as China as well as other global trading partners. I think recent reports suggest that Mr. Donald Trump may also, remove the ban on TikTok, which was a kind of a hurting point. But I think obviously with some restrictions. So clearly, I think, some mind shift has happened. I think US has realized that they can't do without China. At the same time, China has realized that they cannot do without US. So I think net, it would be an amicable solution for both US as well as China. And I think if this happens, then I think the markets would experience a sigh of relief because, tariffs were supposed to be a big stumbling block for the global markets going up. And I think India will also benefit because obviously, we are also very close to a trade deal with the US. And I think only a matter of few months when we finally get to hear about the final, details of the deal. So net, I think these developments are very positive for the markets here.
Absolutely. So the developments are positive, and the Gift Nifty is already indicating to a positive start, 24,500 and beyond. Let's see whether this holds on, even if we open beyond that. So far in the last week, what we've seen is that we did go beyond 24,500, but we could not sustain above those levels. So we'll try to find out whether that happens in trade also or not. Any key takeaway from the earnings thus far, Mr. Gorakh, that have come in? What has stood out for you, sir?
No, I think clearly my sense is that in this earnings season, cement companies have done pretty well. I think if you even look at maybe some of the banks, Kotak Bank came out with numbers which were much better than what the street expected. So I think banks have now done well. Even SBI numbers which came out were in line with expectations. And I think the markets were happy that, the asset quality has actually improved. So I think my sense is that you could see a much stronger year for FY26. And obviously banks, capital goods, manufacturing, cement, these are pockets where I think there's a lot of growth expected. So definitely, I think, these have been the winners. I think in terms of even metal companies like Vedanta, I think we saw very good numbers. The management commentary was also very solid. So I think, broadly, I think it's only IT which has got be a slightly underperformer. But otherwise, I think broadly most of the company numbers have been in line with expectations, and that the market has liked this time.
Okay, let's look at the pre-open trade. We are seeing 24,500 on our screens, at least at the beginning of the pre-open trade, 0.6% higher. So that's indicative of a gap up start for the Nifty today at 9:15. But let's hope that sustains 135 points up in trade. But many stocks that we can look at today, SBI from the banking space will be important to be seen. Let's see how it is reacting in the pre-open trade. Remember, the earnings have come in. Net profit has fallen by 10% at 18,643 crores, and there was a higher provisions weighing on the net profit this time around. Provisions came in at 6,442 crores versus 911 crores last quarter. So there's a sharp jump there. Even though we have seen that on the gross NPA and the net NPA level, both accounts, we have seen some softness and improvement on SBI. Let's pull up the stock of SBI to really see how in the pre-open trade the stock is really reacting. It should be holding up in trade. Kotak Mahindra Bank, another one which is very, very important to see in trade today. Net interest income here was up by about 5.4%, whereas net profit came down by 14 odd percent. Gross NPA and net NPA both have improved quarter on quarter. Provisions have come in at 909 crores, up by 14.5% on a quarter on quarter basis. If deposits, however, have improved by about 11 odd percent. Let's look at Kotak Mahindra Bank as well to see how that one is opening in trade, and we could be seeing some positives there too. Indian Bank, that's another one that you need to watch out for. The net profit up by 31%, net interest income up by about 6.2%, gross NPAs and the net NPAs have improved. Avenue Supermarts is another one that you could be looking at today. That's another stock that you can track. Net profit here was down by 2% at 551 crores. Revenue up by about 17%. EBITDA up 1.2%. EBITDA margins at 6.4% have slipped a bit. So we keep an eye out on that. There is an indication of a near 4% lower start. AU Small Finance Bank is another one that you could look at. Here, remember, there's also the news flow of the block deal. True North now plans to sell 92.3 lakh shares or 1.24% of the total equity via block deals at 600 for 600 odd crores. Floor price up 650, about a 4% discount from the closing price. That's something that you could see today. City Union Bank, another one which came out with the numbers. Net profit up by 13% at 288 crores. Net interest income up by 10% year on year to 600 crores. Both the gross NPA and the net NPA have somehow eased and improved from last quarter, although we have seen tad uptake on the provisions front there. Let's discuss with Mr. Gaurav Thakur what exactly should one really expect from the banking names. SBI, Kotak Mahindra Bank, Indian Bank has come out with the numbers. How would you really look at City Union Bank too? How would you look at some of these banking names today?
I think most of the banks which you mentioned, I think numbers are going to be pretty good. In fact, if you look at smaller banks like City Union Bank, or for that reason, Federal Bank, I think my expectation is actually, except for some of the PSU banks, the numbers may not be in line with expectations. I think some of the banks have provided a little more provisions considering the asset quality issues, but otherwise, broadly, larger banks like Bank of Baroda, Canara Bank, PNB should do better. In fact, SBI also, I think numbers were in line. I think these provisions may not be repeated in the quarter 1 of next financial year, and that is what the market would like to hear. Broadly, the markets are very happy that the asset quality from December has come down below 2%, so which I think is definitely good. AU Small Finance Bank, according to me, will be in action today because there's some block deal which has got to be culminated today. So that also could put some additional pressure on the stock, but numbers have been in line with what the market expected.
Okay, got that. Let's in fact also welcome on board Vaishali Parekh, Vice President Technical Research and Analysis at Prabhudas Lilladher, to join in on the conversation with us. Good morning to you, Vaishali. Good to have you with us on board at the beginning of another week. Tell us, how are you looking at the markets? The pre-open is already indicating a gap up, but the point is that will it sustain?
Very good morning, all of you. Yes, so it looks quite positive as long as we are sustaining, and that's what actually was my view even last week. That as long as we are sustaining about 24,200, 24,300, we have a positive outlook. And today, of course, we are witnessing a gap up opening, and in all likelihood, we should sustain and probably go towards for 24,800. So once we see a clarity of Nifty crossing 24,500, 550 levels decisively and sustaining above that, I think we are heading for 24,800.
Okay, got that. We're getting ready for 24,800. That sounds positive. Okay, any key stock ideas that you'll be looking at today, Vaishali?
So, well, I think, Sakshi, I think maybe auto sector, IT sector, they should start participating because
Okay.
banking stocks are already in this, but they are quite sluggish right now. But I think I'm looking at Maruti also. Maruti is doing very well, so that should continue to do well. It needs to cross 12,400 levels, and if it sustains above that, I think we would be looking at a target of around 13,000 plus. So 13,500 plus. So let's see.
Okay, got that. So 13,000 plus targets for Maruti Suzuki. We can definitely keep an eye out on that. In fact, we already are getting some statements from FADA's April data. And the key statements are that the two-wheeler sales have actually increased by 2.5% on a year-on-year. This is the latest number that we are getting in from FADA. And remember, the auto sales figures have just come in on the 1st of May as well. Let's ask Mr. Gorakshakar as well his viewpoints on the auto space, sir. So one trigger is that there is again softness on the tariff front that was being expected earlier, because there are statements coming in from the US saying they do not want to, place such high tariffs on autos. There are auto companies in tandem which have lobbied and talked about lowering of the tariffs on the auto front from the with the US government. So there is some sense of an expectation of a lower tariff there. The other thing is that Tata Motors, with that pause in the tariffs, is again starting its JLR shipments to the US. That's another one. We have seen sales figures coming in for most of them, largely in line, but some of them have continued to reel under pressure. How would you really look at the auto space right now, sir?
I think, Sakshi, as you rightly mentioned, one of the key beneficiaries of the lower tariff regime would be Tata Motors because they have a large exposure to the US market. But the good news is that JLR has started exporting vehicles back to the US in anticipation that tariffs may be revised downwards. Another trigger for Tata Motors is today they have a board meeting to split both the businesses. As everyone is aware, Tata Motors is now going to be divided into two parts. One is the JLR business and one is the domestic business. So, that itself is going to be also a trigger for the stock. So, I think definitely Tata Motors at these valuations looks attractive if one were to look at the longer term scenario. And the other stock which we are quite positive is Mahindra and Mahindra. See, today results are going to come in. Our sense is that M&M would post very strong numbers, and what kind of commentary they put for the tractor business, for the commercial, for the utility vehicle business is very important. Plus, their electric vehicle launch is scheduled for the April to June quarter. So I think very soon you will see even the electric vehicles making a inroad in the domestic market, which will contribute to their top line. So I think Tata Motors and Mahindra, I think these are probably the best positioned bets now. We'll have to see as and when how things improve going forward. Overall, I believe Tata Motors and M&M can be accumulated on every decline.
Okay, got that. So that's the viewpoint there for the auto space at large. M&M particularly, sir. Avinash, sir, what would you really do here with the mergers, acquisitions coming in with SML, Isuzu? Numbers will come in today as well. How would you really look at an M&M today?
You're asking me?
No, Avinash, sir.
See, I think SML Isuzu, I think clearly is a very strategic buy for Mahindra and Mahindra. They've clearly said that in the bus segment, specifically where Mahindra and Mahindra does not have a large market share, SML is going to provide them a very strong positioning in the market. And I think the acquisition price has also been done at a very attractive valuation. So I think it's a matter of time before this company is taken over. The company will be making an open offer to existing shareholder. So I think net it's very positive. I think if it goes through, then definitely it adds a little more sheen to the overall market positioning for M&M going forward.
Okay, fair point. Got that in action as well. The other important aspect is crude oil, something that we were discussing with Avinash a while back. Vaishali, I'll come to you on that front. Below $60 a barrel for crude, comfortable for India as a whole, but some of the key sectors that could benefit are OMCs, the downstream companies, HPCL, BPCL, IOC. We could also look at some aviation companies like Indigo, which have already been in an uptrend and logging in newer highs. That could stand to benefit with lower crude. Then all the crude derivative companies like paint companies could be in focus, like an Asian Paints, Berger for that instance as well. Where would you keep your fresh bets on, Vaishali, because of this crude oil benefit coming in now?
Well, of course, to start with, it's the OMCs, and we are already seeing a gap up opening. So I think the view turns positive for OMCs. Along with that, of course,
Yeah.
as you said, paint, but also the tire stocks. I mean, actually, we've been seeing that tire stocks are doing well. So according to me, I think tire also should do well
Yes.
eventually. And yes, of course, Indigo has always been, it has shown a lot of clarity as far as the trend is concerned. And we maintain a positive bias. I think in all likelihood, Indigo can go towards 5,800 to 6,000 levels from here.
Okay. Mr. Gorakshakar, how about you? Would you still look at Indigo positively despite the rally that we have seen thus far? Does it make for a case for fresh investors to really look at Indigo at this level?
Yeah, I think, Sakshi, I think with crude prices coming down, I think obviously, 60% of the cost of an airline is accounted by, the crude price. So obviously, any drop in the crude price will be beneficial for them. And I think one thing which is interesting is, we don't find ticket prices going down when crude prices go down. So I think, the margins would get, in fact, better. So I think it's good. It's a good pricing power kind of positioning kind of play, where the raw material cost in decrease may not immediately reflect into the ticket prices going down. So that essentially means that on the longer haul kind of routes, they would continue to make a very decent kind of profitability. So I think on any decline, yes, I think one could definitely look at adding Indigo.
Okay, one could definitely look at adding Indigo. That's the suggestion that's coming in. How about the OMCs, Avinash sir? What would be the pecking order if somebody has to really look at it? Do you bet on all three, or is there one preferred over the other, sir, in the OMC space?
So I think HPCL, BPCL would be the preferable choices initially, and I think then one could look at even IOC. My sense is that BPCL and HPCL could benefit significantly because they have a large, marketing network. They have a large exposure to oil marketing products in totality, especially diesel, petrol. And I think any raw material price decrease, especially on the crude front, would actually help them improve their gross refining margins. So I think, of course, Reliance also comes in here, but I think direct OMC plays would be BPCL and HPCL.
Okay, fair point. Got that. Another stock that we look at is CDSL. Vaishali, starting off with you. Last week also we did see a lot of momentum in the capital markets related stocks. We've discussed that as well. But CDSL has come out with the numbers as well. Consolidated YOY numbers show that the total income was down 4.3%, net profit was down 22.4%, and the board has also announced a dividend of 12.5 rupees odd. We are seeing in the pre-open trade about a dip of 3.5% that we could see here. Would that make for a case to buy on CDSL?
I would say, well, we are seeing weakness, but 1250 level should be respected as support. So if that is so, then I think the trend should continue upward. But if 1250 levels break, then I think it would call for further weakness.
Okay. Avinash sir, how about you in the capital market story? Which is the strongest counter that appears to you between BSC, CDSL, CAMS that will come out with the numbers today? We will also look at K FinTech, something that continued to bounce all across last 7 days, 10 days odd. Where are you? Or maybe even the broking names like a Motilal Oswal, Angel 1361 WAM. How would you really play this story right now? Where are the strongest bets can be found, sir?
No, I think within this pack, I think BSE stands out because see, the exchange business is something which is very unique. Only two players, one is listed and the other is yet to get listed. That is NSE. And I think all these intermediaries are basically ancillaries to exchanges. So basically, if you can talk about CDSL, KFin Technologies, CAMS, these are all companies which benefit on the growth of the capital market. The same thing goes for broking companies, although numbers for the broking companies this quarter have not been great, especially if you look at numbers from AGL1, Motilal Oswal. But I think if the market sentiment improves, trading volumes increase, then obviously that would be a big leg up, to the broking companies. As far as exchanges are concerned, I think it's business as usual. Of course, for BSE, the NSE listing in the very near term is another trigger. But they have done a remarkable job in ensuring that both the cash and the derivative market volumes have increased. So BSE, even at these levels, if one were to take a 2-year view, I would say that one could still get a decent risk reward if one has the patience and conviction.
Okay, got that. Let's look at the markets opening now. We have opened higher in trade on the Nifty. You can see 24,450 now with us, 105 points higher. That's nearly a 0.4% of a start on the positive side that we have on the Nifty. Let's also look at the Nifty Bank there to see whether the banks continue to support the markets at this point. If you look at the Nifty Bank, there's a 0.25% uptick, 55,176 coming in for the Nifty Bank today. Although the mid and the small caps, I believe, are actually starting slightly on the back foot in comparison to the frontline indices. Mid cap there is a 0.6% uptick, 54,112 at this point in time. You can see a 300 point of a jump there, and the small caps actually absolutely flat with a positive bias on that front. The advances are 1186 to 424, declines on the NSE, so comfortably on the positive side. The markets is skewed. You can actually see a broad-based buying. So the Nifty Bank, now even the mid caps are actually doing well. Small caps are picking up pace on the Nifty. You just have a handful of stocks which are down, but Adani Ports, Tata Motors, Asian Paints. You also have names like NTPC Power Grid opening higher. These are the top movers. ICICI Bank is opening higher. Geo Finance opening higher. But what's lower? You have ONGC, Kotak Mahindra Bank, L&T, JSW Steel that continues to reel under pressure. And that also is something that you can look at among the top movers. But let's look at some of the earnings reactions that are coming in. RR Kabel, it was indicating a very strong start in the pre-open trade, somewhere to the tune of 15 odd percent higher on the back of earnings. Remember, revenue up of 26%. EBITDA up by 68%, and the margins also improving there. RR Kabel, that's the one that we are looking at. Net profit up by 64%, and that is actually indicating a very strong start in trades today. Now you have a 12% uptick, 1145 on this one. Let's also look at NetWeb Technologies. That's another earnings that's starting on the positive note in trade today. Then we can also look at both the paint majors. Asian Paints and Berkshire Paints are opening higher, about 2% up. M&M is opening about 2% higher ahead of the numbers that are coming in. Then you also have names like Eternal about 1% higher, Titan up by 1% higher. Avenue Supermarts on the results impact, however, lower by 2%. SBI, half odd percent lower at 796. Reliance Industries among the heavyweights, however, slightly higher in trade. It continues its upward momentum. HDFC Bank from the heavyweight banking spaces that continues to be supporting the markets. ICICI Bank also supporting the markets at this point in time. You also have Indian Bank after the earnings supporting the sentiments. Among sectors, I think it's all the sectors barring PSU banks that are actually opening higher in trade. Let's go back to Vaishali to see how the opening has come in. As per expectations there, Vaishali?
I would say yes. The stock specific continues to be the flavor. We have spoken time and again about the insurance stocks, HAL. So we continue to stay positive, and today also we are seeing good strength in these stocks. And of course, Reliance the market driver. So I think these are the stocks that one can look into. For fresh entry, I still look at Persistent. I mean, one cannot rule out a few of the IT stocks which are technically well placed. So I do like KPIT technology. I do like science at these levels. They are showing signs of bottoming out. And Persistent and Coforge, of course, I think Coforge has its results day to day, so I won't share my view on that. But yes, Persistent, I do like it even at these levels. So yes, these are the stocks which have a clarity in their trend, and I would focus on these.
Okay, got that. Let's go back to Avinash sir to really understand on the market opening and of course what we can expect there. Two of the earnings are really reacting very sharply higher. Avinash sir, RR Kabel and NetWeb Technologies. How are you assessing these two names, sir, after this strong rally?
No, I think numbers have been much better than what the street expected. I think my sense is that we could possibly, listen to the management commentary today in the management conference call. And I think beyond that, what comes out for 26 and how the management wants to position themselves is going to be very critical for any further re-rating. But I think net numbers are much better. I think the market would be quite happy to know if the trajectory continues in the current year also because they are having a decent order book. And I think margins could also improve significantly on new kind of business orders they take in.
Okay. Another stock that I want to discuss with both of you is Reliance Industries. Again, another 0.5% of an uptick that can be seen on top of what we have seen as a rally unfold over the last 1 week around the earnings front. Avinash sir, 1430 kind of levels back with us on Reliance Industries. Can one still look at buying this one? It's already improved from about 1100 odd recent low levels to now 1433. How are you looking at Reliance? Many also believe that this could be a turnaround story, a re-rating story for FY26. Should one bet big on Reliance even at these levels?
Yes, I think Reliance definitely looks attractive from a long-term point of view. I think the quarter four numbers were in line, no major surprises. But I think one aspect which is very important for Reliance is the annual general meeting which they have every year. Possibly in this annual general meeting, markets are expecting that the management could spell out some unlocking, strategies like what they did for the Geo business. I think the retail business is something which most people are in the market are indicating that there could be some formal announcement of a demerger. So I think we'll have to wait and watch. But any decline in crude oil price would actually also be beneficial for a player like Reliance because
Yeah.
obviously Reliance also processes oil, and I think to that extent its margins could get better.
Margins could get better. So, okay, we'll definitely look at that as well. IT index is also opening higher, and you can see a bump up there. To remember, there has been a lot of uptick over the last 1 week. Vaishali, how would you look at the IT space now?
So, actually, we spoke about it. I mean, as I said, look at KPIT. That's very well placed. There is scope for further upside. In fact, we have also recommended LTI Mindtree to our clients
Okay.
as a positional trade. So, I think IT index on the whole should participate. Right now, I'm seeing that there is some exhaustion coming in Bank Nifty, but it's IT which is supporting the market. So, yes, one cannot rule out the strength seen in these stocks.
Okay, got that. Avinash sir, within the IT pack, any key favorites post the earnings that have come in from the large caps and select mid caps also that have come in with the numbers? What has stood out for you, sir? At least on the overall sectoral front, I do believe that the peak pessimism that was being penciled in probably seems priced in, and that's why things are looking up on the IT pack. But from here on, what does one really do?
I think we are also positive on the mid-cap tier 2 IT companies, specifically companies like KPIT, Persistent, Tech Mahindra. These are companies which, according to us, have shown a decent trajectory in the quarter four. And I think the management commentary has also been quite encouraging. I think the bigger companies, have a variety of issues. If you look at TCS, Wipro, Infosys, I think these numbers are not going to actually, excite the markets. Even Tata Technologies did not come out with very strong numbers. So I think we believe that the second tier IT companies, could possibly be a little better positioned in terms of the earnings trajectory going forward. But any significant amount of re-rating, we will have to wait till September, till finally, the tariff solution is finally sorted out. Till that time, unless we hear about any large order wins from the US clients, these stocks would just remain in a very moderate range. The tier 2 companies could definitely be accumulated from a longer term perspective.
Hmm. Okay, got that. That's as far as the space is concerned. Let's also look at some of the other pockets in trade now. I wanted to again go back to the banking space, especially when it comes to both HDFC and ICICI. We've been focusing on these two large banks for the last 1 week, 10 days odd, and there is continuous build up on the momentum that we are seeing here. Vaishali, do you still see a lot of strength built up here on ICICI and HDFC beyond the moves that we've already seen?
Well, I think right now it is showing signs of consolidation. ICICI Bank also, I mean, let's talk about it. It's already showing a lot of up moves. So maybe we may see some consolidation taking in times to come. But however, there is still no negation continue holding with a trailing stop loss, but not at all ideal for a fresh buy.
Okay. Avinash sir, within the banking space, large private banks versus PSU banks at this stage, how are you really looking at the fresh moves that can be caught?
No, I think clearly private sector banks have outperformed, in this quarter. But I think if you see the PSU banks, most of the PSU banks, Sakshi, are trading near to or below their book values. Now, in an economy which is expected to grow by about 6%, plus, GST rate collections have reached record high levels, it means economic activity is buzzing with activity. So I think, stocks like Bank of Baroda, Canara Bank, PNB, I think one should look at these banks because eventually I think there could be a good re-rating here. So I think private sector banks, we like ICICI Bank, which is our top pick. We also like banks like Kotak Bank. But I think clearly these smaller, these PSU banks which I mentioned to you have definitely a lot of value. And I think going forward, you could see a good amount of re-rating here.
Okay, fair point. Understood that as far as the banking names are concerned. Vaishali, anything in the F&O space that you're looking at today? There is PTM, Varun Beverages, IGL, IOC, all of them showing us some gains. What would you catch now?
So I do like Varun Beverages. I also like Paytm. So, I'll just give you the levels for Paytm. Paytm, we are
Sure.
seeing that there is some momentum and strength seen. So I think 830 should be taken as a stop loss. And once we see the stock moving about 860, 870, I think it's ready for 900 target.
Okay, got that. So that's the F&O space that you can definitely look at, viewers, at this point. But Avinash sir, another space that I have to ask you is the FMCG basket. We do know that Marico came out with the numbers and that's in focus today because of that. But overall, what's the sense on the FMCG space, sir, right now? We did see some moves in the last few days on the large cap names. But are these going to be sustainable? They've had a long period of consolidation thus far. Things were expected to turn around from April onwards because of the tax cuts getting into force, and of course the rate cut announcements by the RBI also supporting the sentiments for these consumer focused names. How would you look at FMCG players?
No, I think clearly, FMCG also should do well. Hopefully, this year we will have another year of good monsoon. So I think a lot of demand from rural India could actually help a stronger volume growth. But I think, as you rightly mentioned, the real improvement in the volume and the profitability numbers for FMCG companies could be reflected in the April to June quarter. January to March was not a great quarter. In fact, even what Lever reported was not a very great number. Although the market commentary, the company's commentary was quite positive, the real benefit, could come in the April to June quarter. And I think companies like Godrej Consumer, Dabur, Marico, these could be good bets in the current scenario, provided one has a fairly long-term kind of, holding kind of conviction period. Because, these stocks are not cheap by any standard. They are fair to expensive. And unless we see a very strong earnings trajectory in the April to June quarter plus a good management commentary, only then these stocks would get re-rated. But yes, these are portfolio companies. So any decline in the market could definitely, one could use them to, add little quantity on declines.
Okay, fair point. That's the view that's coming in on the FMCG pack. Anything that you'd like to highlight, Vaishali, on that front?
For Nestle?
For, yes, FMCG stocks, yes.
Well, I would say HUL still continues to be good at these levels. And so also is the case with Marico. I mean, for a trading strategy, these are all technically well placed. So I would focus on Marico is showing strength. It's getting into new round of momentum. So with 700 as support, I think the stock can go towards 750, 760.
Okay, got that. So that's as the FMCG names are concerned. Marico on that front. We are seeing some build-up happening on the markets at this point. 24,470 now with us, 125 points higher in trade. Among the top contributors, you do have HDFC Bank, Reliance, Infi, TCS, ICICI Bank, M&M, and Adani Ports as some of the stocks that are supporting the sentiments, whereas Kotak Mahindra Bank is a key drag, SBI is a key drag, contributing negatively to the markets. You have L&T, JSW Steel with that overhang on the news continuing. Axis Bank, IndusInd Bank also falling into. We are also looking at ONGC declining a tad bit and contributing negatively to the markets at this point. But the sharp reaction on Kotak Mahindra Bank, Avinash sir, how should one really play this one? 5% down now post earnings and the weakness.
Which companies, Sakshi, if you can please repeat?
Kotak Mahindra Banks are now 5.5% down post earnings.
Whether it is ONGC or Kotak Bank, what stock is this?
Kotak Bank. Kotak Bank.
I really can't hear you, Sakshi. Sorry.
Kotak Mahindra Bank, sir. Okay, we'll toss that question to Vaishali. Vaishali, Kotak Mahindra Bank, what does one do? 5% lower?
So I would say to those who are holding should book profit for now, but with a long-term perspective, I would say keep 2000 as stop loss, and let's see if it respects that support and takes into new round of momentum. But for now, it's showing signs of reversal. Traders should exit.
Traders should exit at this point in time. Avinash sir, what is it that you will be watching out for the markets now onwards? Where are you keeping your focus in terms of key stocks? If you could highlight, which are the new stocks that have come in on your radar?
Yeah, I think Sakshi, sorry for the interruption earlier. I think you had asked
No
on
worries.
Kotak, right? So
Yes.
my sense is that this is likely to be an overreaction. I don't think this stock would remain an underperformer for a very long time. So I think if one has the next 12 to 15 months time frame in mind, I think this is definitely a bank one could look at accumulating. As far as the new companies on the radar, today we are going to see the numbers from Indian hotels. We are quite positive on the stock. Our sense is that this could be another strong quarter by Indian hotels, and plus what kind of management commentary they spell out going forward. And another company which we had suggested earlier, that is Varun Beverages. See, this company reported a very steady quarter in the first 3 months because their year ending is December. So we would believe that even this stock at these valuations looks pretty attractive. Our sense is that we could see a very decent kind of growth in the current year also. So I think looking at consumption, looking at hotel sector, and of course cement companies like Ambuja Cements. Typically, we are positive on these 2-3 sectors where I think we could get good opportunities to generate a decent risk reward in the next 12 to 15 months.
Okay, got that. Thank you so much, Avinash sir, for being with us in the morning edition and sharing with us all your thoughts and strategies for the investors as well. Appreciate your time as always on Business Today Television. Vaishali, coming back to you, we were discussing some stocks and let me just come back on that front. Indigo, we discussed, and the stock is moving now further higher, 3.5% up. Strong momentum that continues. You did say 5,800 is coming. Any fresh targets here? What exactly would you say now?
Well, so it's trying to retest the previous high, that is 56.50. So let's wait for that at least. And then, well, we keep a trailing stop loss and look forward to 5,800, 6,000 for now. So yes, the trend is intact, but I will not be very, very gung-ho about it because, well, it's already in deep overbought zones technically. So, well, continue holding to those who already have them.
Okay, got that. What about the oil marketing companies? All of them nearly 4% up, IOC, BPCL, HPCL. Will you carry on the move here?
Yes, I think so. Because it's just crossed the 200. If I talk about IOC, it's just crossed the 200-day moving average. So above 145, that's what the resistance was. So if it sustains, I think it's heading for 160, 170.
Okay, got that. We'll definitely keep that in our focus right now. The Nifty Bank has slipped into the red because of the large impact of the results, Kotak Mahindra Bank, SBI that we focused on. But the Nifty is still holding up strong at this point, largely supported by heavyweight large private sector banks like ICICI, HDFC, Reliance Industries is another one, and M&M and some such stocks that are continuing to support the markets. But mid and small caps, Vaishali, any key stocks that have come onto your radar afresh?
So, well, I'm looking at Phenolics cables right now.
Okay.
That was showing some momentum just some time back, but technically the stock has not participated after seeing a good erosion right from 1700 levels to now at 900. The stock looks pretty attractive with 870 as a near-term basis as a stop loss. This can be considered. I think this is heading for a target of 1000 plus as a trading target.
Okay, fair point. Hopefully, we'll keep that in mind as well. Let's look at some of the other pockets then in the markets. Vaishali, we've been discussing a lot about the real estate space with you. One of your favorite spaces has been Godrej Properties, Macrotech. We've discussed at large. Anything afresh now?
So, well, I still maintain Godrej Properties continues to show strength. I mean, we had spoken about it right from 2000 levels just in the recent
Yes.
past. And currently, it is showing technical resistance at around 2300 levels. The minute we see the stock moving above that, can go towards 2700. So, yet again, a fresh buy near 2100 levels. But
Okay,
now
so
I would
that's the
lay my eyes on trend. Have a look at trends actually, because that
yes.
also I believe had good results. And once again, in the process of making higher bottom, so 5,000 should act as a support, and this can go towards 5,500, 5,600 levels.
Okay, 5,500 could be coming in for trend right now at 5,268. The momentum continues to 2.5% higher in trade. So, Avenue Supermart, how will you play that from the retail space after the earnings? There has been a dampened space, and this stock hasn't really kind of performed vis-a-vis the newer players that are going big on quick commerce, faster delivery. Avenue Supermarts is still to catch up on that, being the heavyweight that it is, and the kind of wealth creation it has done in the past, that somehow is lagging. But is it only preparing itself for what could be coming into the future?
So I would say 3,800 should act as a support. So as long as 3,800 levels are held on, one can still take it as a buying opportunity with a stop loss of 3,700. Right now, it is showing some negation, so further corrective move cannot be ruled out. So I would look at it at 3,800 levels, and perhaps from there on, it can get into a new round of momentum.
Okay, can get into a new round of momentum as well. We'll definitely focus on that and keep that in focus. But Nifty Bank viewers, it's now falling further, 0.8% lower, 432 points of a fall from the day's high point is what you're already seeing here. Keep an eye out on that. That's the weak link in the markets today. But many others which are supporting the sentiments within the banks, like large caps, I pointed out. City Union Bank also post earnings is up by 3.5%. Indian Bank is up by about 0.25% as well. So the earnings focused companies and those that have proven their worth in Q4 are continuing with their momentum, but drag on the back of Kotak Mahindra Bank and SBI is what is keeping the markets under check on the Nifty Bank right now. About the auto space that we have discussed at large, that is continuing to be in focus on the kind of numbers that are coming in. Let's look at a few names here. Bajaj Auto, TVS Motors. Let's look at the two-wheelers, particularly Hero Moto. Vaishali, how about the two-wheeler space? What would you do here? What looks positive within the two-wheeler specifically?
So yes, of course. So Sakshi, Bajaj Auto, even Hero Moto, I think, well, it's just a sideways move. But for Bajaj Auto, I would say 7,500 is a crucial support level. And the stock, for it to show a confirmation in a trend, it needs to go above 8,500. So, well, I guess good buying opportunity. Again, once again, less to lose, more to gain. So I would look at Bajaj Auto as well as TVS. But well, let us see the stock getting in momentum, and that would bring in some confirmation.
Okay, let's look at the Nifty 500. Very, very interesting names here. Two of them we already marked, Netweb Technologies and RR Kabel, 13% higher post earnings that we are seeing. Very strong surge. Gravita India is another one, 9.5% higher for this one at 1987. There's a 174 rupee kind of a jump on this one. JBM Auto is up by 7.5%. You have Marico, we've discussed already. Finolex Cables, as was marked out by Vaishali itself, that this is the stock she's watching out for. Jyoti CNC Automation is another one. Capri Global. These are all the names that are rallying by over 4%. Econ International, I think this is an interesting one to discuss. 3.9% higher in trade. There has been a big order win of over 400 odd crore rupees for the company. That's the fresh trigger for this one. But Vaishali, are you looking at any positive moves in the railways? Defense has been continuously being positive, but railways, are they looking good too or no?
So I would say actually it was showing strength some time back, especially Titagar Wagon and all. But the momentum has fizzled out and it's showing some selling pressure right now. So I will keep that on hold. But rather look at Force Motors that has been on our radar since quite some
Yeah.
time. And It's come into a new price territory, and I think there is still more to come. So that is one of the stocks to my liking. And why not look at some of the pharma stocks like Cipla, Biocon? That's getting into momentum as well.
Okay, so let's discuss that. Force Motors, what are the levels that you can guide all our viewers then in that fresh move that's coming in?
Well, it was yes. This was one of the stocks which held on to its good strong trend in spite of all the choppiness that market witnessed. So now it's already opened with a gap up. So to those who are holding, we have an open projected target of 11,500. So that is one of the stocks which looks quite positive.
Okay, and what about the pharma stocks that you are highlighting? Which one looks really good as a momentum play?
So I do like Cipla as current market price being 1537. Keep a stop loss on 1500. Look for a target of 1580. So that's one of the stocks that I would like. It would be a positional trade, but for momentum, I think Biocon was showing strength. So 320 as stop loss and look for a target of 345 to 350 levels.
Okay, got that. We'll keep an eye out on that. Let's look at any stocks at 52-week high. It's ICICI Bank, 1433. 52-week high of 1447 is what we've seen today. Any stocks on 52-week lows? No, none whatsoever. When let's look at the most active stocks by volume, it's IOC, it's Reliance Power, it is Suzlon that's moving up 0.7% higher, Eternal now 2% up at 239. Let's discuss these names. Suzlon for you, Vaishali, would you bet on it or would you stay away?
Well, I would just take it as a momentum based or a trading strategy. I don't really recommend as a long term buy. But well, 5,300 as support and 65, that would be the range that I would look at right now. So either ways would decide the further trend of the stock. If it goes higher, 65 is the tough resistance. That's the level to watch. Above that, it's getting back into further trend. So I would say take 53.50 as a near term support and right through.
Okay, got that. So that's as far as Suzlon is concerned. What about Eternal? It has been very, very volatile of late, but it's getting stuck in a narrow band of around 230, 240. How would you look at this?
Zomato, yes. So
Yes.
Zomato is looking quite positive even now. I would say, let me just have a clear look at it. 1 minute. So it comes as eternal now. Yes. So 239 being the price. I think it's in a trend. It can go towards 245, 250 as the near term up move. And above that, we can have a relook for higher targets.
Okay, got that. So that we can definitely keep in our focus again as far as Zomato is concerned. Anything else within the new age tech basket beyond Zomato also? Vaishali, you did point out that Paytm was something that you were looking at. Now we've discussed Zomato. Anything else also that comes on the radar?
So right now I'm saying the financials are coming back in momentum. That is Bajaj Twins. So that
Okay.
is one. Those are the stocks post results that showed a good erosion, and I
Yes.
think that can be looked into. Vedanta is another stock which looks good right now with 410 as stop loss. Look for a target of 435, 440. So yes, these are the stocks.
Okay, Bajaj Twins, yet again, Vedanta from the metals pack is something that you can definitely focus on, viewers. So keep an eye out on that space as well. 9:43, first half an hour just now nearly out in trade. Vaishali, let's discuss some of the other moving parts also in the markets. You were discussing the tire names that you liked. But I also want to discuss the
Fine.
auto ancillaries. We've discussed the four-wheelers, two-wheelers. In trade, you talked about the tire space, but what about the auto ancillaries? That's something that we have missed. Stocks like JBM Auto. How are you looking at that?
JBM Auto, you asked me?
JBM Auto, Samvardhan Motherson. How would you look at these auto part companies?
So yes, all look very positive. In fact, today's candle also shows a lot of strength. Let's talk about JBM Auto. With today's lowest stop loss, I think this is ready. I mean, the volume is also picking up. This can go towards 800, new round of momentum setting in. So is the case with Sonacoms. If you see, that has been in trend since quite some time. So that looks positive. Samvardhan also is in great level. So I think these are the stocks one can focus on.
Okay, definitely. We can focus on that. But you were talking about Vedanta on the positive side. I also just wanted to bring up JSW Steel. This has been rather under pressure because we all know how Supreme Court has, called the resolution plan for Bhushan Steel as illegal, and therefore there has been, a dampening impact on the stock. Today also it's down by about 1%. Would you still call it an avoid stock right now, Vaishali?
I would say so. I would say so because with big gap
Mm-hmm.
down opening and it's holding on to the cluster of moving averages right now, but that doesn't say much of the stock. Quite likely it can get into. Avoid what stocks which are in controversy. Why get into?
Okay, got that. First half an hour of the candle is out. Vaishali, what's the strategy you recommend on the markets now before we let you go for this day?
Well, so as I mentioned, Sakshi, for Nifty per se, I would maintain 24,300 would act as a near-term support. For this week, I would still give a leverage of 24,200 and look for a target of 24,500, 24,800. That's the view for index. Bank Nifty is currently at a make or break scenario. 54,800 is the final support that we would look at, but I maintain positive bias on the stocks that we speak about. So it could be sideways, it could be rotational movement, maybe it's IT picking up and Bank Nifty in a lull. So, yes, stock specific movement should be the focus.
Okay, fair point. Got that in focus as well. Thank you so much, then, Vaishali, for being with us in the morning edition, helping us navigate through
Right.
all those stock ideas and strategies. Always a pleasure. Hope you have a great time till the time we see you next
You
on
too.
air on Business
Thank you.
Today Television. Viewers, we'll start to wrap up the morning edition in trade now. It's so far panned out to be okay for the Nifty. Of course, there has been some choppiness that you do see. Let's hope that this continues. We're holding above 24,457, largely led by the large private sector banks like ICICI and HDFC, Reliance Industries, M&M, some of the heavyweight counters really throwing their weight behind the markets. On the downside, just about handful of stocks that are pulling down, and that's also earnings reaction that are coming in. But we'll have to see whether the Nifty bank and the weakness there persists, or is there any kind of a buying that action continues on the Nifty bank as well. That's the weaker link at this point as far as the Nifty is concerned. 55,000 continues to remain on the Nifty bank as of now, 110 points lower. That's a 0.25% lower start, but that's also largely led by the stocks with heavy weight and the earnings impact on that front. What we'll do, viewers, is we'll wrap up here, but do stay tuned on to Business Today Television. Market conversations, earnings conversations will follow throughout the course of the day, and you can ask all your stock related queries at 12 noon on daily calls, where I'll be back with two market experts guiding you through your stock related questions. Stay tuned.